Great stadium, great atmosphere.
Opportunity knocks. Who's going to answer?
Hey, great move, but you have to be able to make tackles one-on-one in space.
Stevens, Jackone all day. Great protection. Fires over the middle. That's number 81, Tay Martin. Tay Martin from Oklahoma State. 3rd and 3 now, though. Money down. Money area.
A little awareness. You talk about an old school thumper?
Yes.
Man, those are the kind of shots that you dream about when you're a defender.
Got him.
I mean, he got a full bucket.
Oh, man, it's so great to see these coaches celebrate, to see these players celebrate. Both teams just fantastic this evening.
All right, we are now fully into draft season. The combine has come and gone. I'm sure many of you are looking at mock drafts at this point and trying to get acquainted with some of the best prospects at every single position. And I can tell you right now that this is probably going to be the deepest draft that we've seen in many, many years. Because of all the COVID situations and all the red shirts and all the, I guess you could call it, delays in terms of guys coming out this year that in a normal, non-pandemic football season might have come out last year, there's actually just more players in this class than we're used to. And as a byproduct of the sheer depth of this draft class overall, the All-Star Game rosters that we saw in kind of the pre-combine All-Star circuit were equally insane. In particular, when you look at the Shrine Bowl rosters that were put together by my buddy Eric Galco down in Las Vegas, which, by the way, Las Vegas, phenomenal location for an All-Star Game, and I hope they keep it there forever. This was its first year, and I thought it went amazingly well, but more on that later. When you just look at the rosters that Eric collected, the amount of talent that he all got together in one room in that 1 week, I mean, just the speed alone was jaw-dropping. Let me put it to you this way. When you look at the combine last week, the fastest wide receiver, and there was a lot of fast wide receivers, but the fastest out of all of them was Tyquan Thornton from Baylor, who was one of the biggest stars of Shrine Bowl week. In addition to that, the 3 fastest running backs, which were Pierre Strong Jr., Isaiah Pacheco, and Ty Chandler, all 3 of them were also Shrine Bowl stars. The 2 fastest tight ends, which were Chig Okonkwo from Maryland and Jelani Woods from Virginia, both of them were also down at the Shrine Bowl. Even when looking at offensive line, you look at Kellen Deach, who ran a ridiculous sub-5.0 time, and he was the 2nd fastest tackle out of all of them, and he was also in Vegas with all of these other freaks. And of course, capping it all off, I got to talk about the fastest DB, which was Kalen Barnes, and not only was he the fastest DB out of corners and safeties, but he was like 1/100th of a second away from tying the fastest 40 time ever for anybody in the history of the Combine, and he was also a Shrine Bowl star. So when I say that Eric put together some squads down there, what I really mean is that Eric had one of the craziest collections of just pure speed freaks that I think I've ever seen on one field. But you know what? Knowing my audience, I'm going to take a wild stab and say that some of you, or maybe even most of you, haven't heard of a lot of these guys that were kind of lighting up the Shrine Bowl and then lighting up the Combine. I mean, hell, even I didn't get to start on these guys till January because I'm preoccupied with the NFL, so I get it. I know we're all a little bit behind. And so I'm going to take it upon myself today to introduce you to who they are, what they can do, and at least at a minimum, why you should be excited about them coming into the league. Again, there are 5 players on this list. I tried to narrow it down as much as I could, so I kind of landed on these 5, the ones that just kind of excite me the most right now, the ones that I really want to introduce you to. And we're going to start off at number 5 with maybe the most dominant, but also the most under-the-radar star coming out of either of these Shrine Bowl rosters, and that is going to be Pierre Strong, the running back from South Dakota State. When you watch Strong on tape, even though he does play at a lower level of college football, you can really see that sub 4.4 speed translate. He is legitimately extremely fast, and not just by FCS standards, but by FBS standards too. When you look at all running backs across all levels of college football, Strong was tied for the lead with total breakaway runs, meaning runs of more than 15 yards, with Kenneth Walker, who was, again, one of the best running backs in this entire class. When Strong is in the open field, he is extremely hard to catch, and I think that he has legit NFL speed. In terms of system fit and skill set and that kind of stuff, he reminds me of kind of like an early career Darren McFadden, really good, fast, slashing style of running back. Someone who can use that speed to press the front side in like a zone system and then use a really, really solid dead leg cut to get north and south. I'm talking instantly. His change of direction is really good on these kind of, one cut and go type runs. So I think that if he goes to a more zone heavy system, somewhere in the Shanahan tree in particular, I think he could work really well with Mike McDaniel down in Miami. If he goes to that kind of offense, I do think that he could be a 1,000-yard runner as a rookie. And I know that that's pretty heavy expectations to put onto an FCS running back, but talent is talent. And I think if he goes to the right spot, he's going to be a fantastic player in the NFL. All right, number 2 on this list is someone that you're probably going to see coming if you follow my podcast at all, which is the Bootleg Football Podcast, by the way, linked down in the description below. We've got like 80 episodes so far, and we did a whole bunch of Shrine Bowl content while we were in Vegas. And if you followed that at all, this is not going to come as a shock to you, and that is Stanford defensive tackle Thomas Booker. Booker is going to be a really hot commodity among probably all 32 teams because not only did he blow up the combine and he had elite measurables, I'm talking about fastest 3-cone, fastest shuttle, 5th best 40, 4th best broad jump. I mean, he's bigger than Sheldon Richardson, and he put up an athletic profile that was pretty damn close to Sheldon Richardson, if not better than Sheldon Richardson in a lot of different ways. So again, we're talking about a borderline elite athletic profile here. But that's not even the most impressive part about him because he also might be the smartest player at any position in this entire draft class. The amount of football that Thomas Booker knows, and I'm not even just talking about defensive line technique and the nuances of that, I'm talking about overall macro defensive concepts. The amount of stuff that he knows, he talks like he's a coach and he's not even in the league yet. How about this? In order to kind of get my point across on this, I'm going to let the man speak for himself, and I'm going to play a little clip from my interview with Thomas at Shrine Bowl, which was over half an hour, I believe, of just us kind of rambling and talking about football. It was the best interview I've ever participated in my entire life, and I highly suggest you go watch the full thing because it's insane how just fucking smart this guy is. But anyway, I'm going to play a little clip from that interview, and I think that's going to really kind of hammer home the point here that I'm trying to make. This dude is going to be wanted by every single defensive line coach in the entire league.
If you don't have the bodies to be able to play stuff straight and honest, and you need to cheat things as an offense to get to where you need to go, then you're giving it up to the defense. But if you got incredible athletes, that's what you start noticing when you look at offensive tackles, right? Yeah. Guys that are extremely quick don't need to lean inside when they're going to do a cutoff block. They don't need to take weight off of their fingers when they're going to pull.
They just do it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, that's what's hard to read. Yeah.
And then you got to look at splits, and then you're trying to okay, is his helmet 6 inches behind the center?
Yes.
You're trying to get clearance. You're trying to gauge depth.
Yep. And I think I was talking to one of the dudes outside. We were talking about Landon Tengwall from Alabama, the Alabama center.
Oh, Dickerson,
yes, Landon Dickerson.
Big dude.
Yeah, and the big thing about him is, the replacement for Kelsey.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Eventually.
Hopefully, yes, at some point.
Yeah.
But the big thing for him was a lot of the times the defensive lineman, you want to key on the snap count and feel out the rhythm. And he was so good at it in terms of not giving them that he would be looking around, right, looking like he was surveying for the mic or something like that. Ball snapped.
I never noticed that.
And that was
snap.
Yes.
Pat Mahomes of snapping.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That stuff is hard to do.
Dude, that's raw.
Yes. So you can never get a rhythm or feel, because a lot of the time, even if a center doesn't say something, then it'll be you can feel their butt go down before they snap. Right. But for guys that are talented and pay attention to it and really work at it, they can get to the point where you really they can really sell you.
Oh my God, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
That's nasty.
Yep.
Once again, you can go see that full interview, which is well worth a watch. It's over half an hour long of basically more of that. And that lives over on the Bootleg Football Podcast Clips channel, which is linked in the description below and in the pinned comment below. But I think it's a little bit easier for you to see now and kind of understand why not only every single team wanted a formal interview with him at Shrine Bowl, but why after Shrine Bowl, he immediately got a combine invite so that every single team could talk to him again. He's an elite athlete, an amazing person, and just flat out fucking brilliant. So I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know what team he's going to play for. All I know is that wherever Thomas Booker ends up, he's going to be in the league for probably a really long time. And with that, we're going to move on to number 3 on our list and keep it inside the Pac-12 here and talk about another guy that was absolutely dominant at every single Shrine Bowl practice. I mean, every single day, nobody could touch this guy. And that was Kyle Phillips, the slot receiver extraordinaire from UCLA. I have maintained the same comp for Kyle Phillips from the very first day that I saw him, which is Hunter Renfrow on 2 shots of espresso. He does everything that Renfrow does as kind of a dedicated slot receiver, but I think that he's even quicker than Hunter is and maybe a little bit faster deep down the field as well. He's one of the best route runners in this entire draft class. I mean, he was really putting on a show down at Shrine Bowl, especially in the one-on-ones. I mean, absolutely nobody could keep up with him. He's got really good hands. He blocks his ass off in the run game, which is very valuable as a slot receiver, because a lot of teams these days like to run out of 11 personnel, but if you don't have a slot receiver that can block, you're just not really going to be able to do that very well. So having a slot receiver that can actually contribute in the run game is huge, not to mention that he's also a pretty damn good red zone weapon as well, just like Hunter Renfrow is. I really can't imagine a scenario where he gets out of the 3rd round. In fact, he could probably even go like late 2nd, early 3rd, if I'm being completely honest here, because again, he made a huge impression on everybody at the Shrine Bowl and really showed what he can do. And if you put him into a system that kind of emphasizes and features players that are like him, cough cough New England, I think that he can thrive immediately as a rookie. It's very tough for me to kind of stack him against the rest of this receiver class because everybody has a lot of different skill sets and he's not the same as a lot of the other guys in this group. But in terms of just looking at like bust potential, high ceilings, high floors, that kind of stuff, I can't really imagine Kyle Phillips failing in the NFL. I think he's a very, very safe prospect. So if you're just looking for receiving help and you absolutely do not want to whiff on a pick, Kyle Phillips is your guy. He's going to come into the league as a really good player, and he'll probably stay a really good player for a long, long time, which to me, obviously, is very valuable. Number 4 on our list is super fun because I'm like 90% sure that he was built in a lab. Like, I don't even really understand how somebody that big is also that fast, but we're going to get to him in just a second because first, I do want to take a moment to thank our sponsor this week that helped to make my Shrine Bowl trip possible, and by extension, this episode possible, and that is the fine folks over at Fabulous. Fabulous is a self-care app designed to help you build better habits and achieve whatever goals you might have. And I don't just mean long-term goals, but short-term goals and even daily goals too. Fabulous can help you maintain or start daily habits thanks to timed reminders and other features that use proven behavioral science principles. And if you really are just starting out trying to build better habits and you don't even know how to begin, Fabulous has guided coaching with programs that can help you build routines from the ground up that maybe you weren't able to build on your own before. And after all, building routine is the best way to transform hard or maybe even just annoying daily tasks into easy and stress-free daily tasks. So at least to me, this app has been really important in my own life for well over a year now. The app experience within Fabulous can be 100% personalized to whatever you need to help yourself improve on, and you can go at your own pace too. There is a free version of the app, but the premium version is obviously more robust with a lot more different features, and you can try that premium version with a 7-day free trial just to see how you like it. The first 100 people to click on the link in the description below will get 25% off of that premium subscription. So if this is something that interests you, go get that big discount while you still can. But even if you don't want the premium version, the free version is still a big, big help as well. Thank you again to Fabulous for sponsoring this week's show. And with that being said, let's get back to it. Okay, number 4 on the list. This is somebody that you're going to be hearing a lot about between now and April. He's a very intriguing prospect, and that is Virginia tight end Jelani Woods. He's 6'7", 260 pounds with 34-inch arms, so his catch radius is just enormous, and he can really, really run as well. Again, he was the second fastest tight end at the combine. He's got low 4.6 speed in that gigantic frame, and that speed really shows up on tape. Like, he's a legit seam ripper out of that Y spot, that inline tight end spot. And when he does that little arc release and then just takes off down the seam, he gets there in a hurry. So if he goes to an offense that kind of emphasizes the vertical passing game, he can be a really, really huge threat. And not to mention, with that big frame and the length and all that, even when he's covered, he's still not really covered. You can just kind of put the ball really high and with his leverage, and there's nothing that a DB or linebacker can do about it. Nobody's going to be able to reach around his frame and kind of knock that ball away because he's just too damn big. So he's kind of got that Mo Alley-Cox dimension about him as well, while also being faster and quicker than Mo Alley-Cox. The last player that I remember that had this kind of combination of size and speed and length that made them virtually unguardable, it was early career Jimmy Graham about a decade ago when he could still run. I'm talking like that 2011 to 2013 Jimmy Graham, where there was absolutely nothing that any defense could do about him. I think that Jelani Woods could be that kind of guy. And I know, here I go again, comparing somebody to a Hall of Famer and, saying they can be Jimmy Graham. It's lofty expectations, I get that. But if he goes to a system that emphasizes his vertical skill set, just like the Saints did for Jimmy Graham early on, I think that he can have a very similar impact. I'm not saying it's guaranteed that he's going to be Jimmy Graham, but it is at least possible, which means, in my opinion, he's going to go a lot earlier than people expect. And that, my friends, brings us to the last and possibly the most intriguing player on this list, because he doesn't really have a true position, but I could not make this list without him. And that is Maryland tight end / fullback / H-back / power slot receiver Chig Okonkwo. When you watch Okonkwo on tape, he just screams Kyle Juszczyk with like a little hint of Delanie Walker to me, which I know kind of sounds like a weird comp because they played two very different roles, but also at the same time, they kind of didn't. Early on in his career, Juszczyk was really just mainly a fullback, but now how you see him used with San Francisco, he plays wide tight end, he plays H-back, they put him in the slot. Kind of Delanie Walker, when he was in San Francisco, he was more of an H-back, and then he went to Tennessee, and he played a lot of wide tight end, in addition to obviously doing all the move tight end stuff that he's famous for. But both of them, as their careers went on, kind of evolved into being these jack-of-all-trades players, and I think that Okonkwo can be that kind of guy from day one. Never mind the fact that he's a 4.5 tight end in an age where everybody wants their tight ends to run 4.5, and he's also super quick, and he can catch, and he can do all the receiving things that people want out of their modern tight ends. But the thing that really intrigued me about him first was that he can block. The first game that I ever watched of him, he only had 2 catches, which doesn't seem that impressive, but in that same tape, he was holding up one-on-one against edge rushers in pass protection. He was digging out defensive linemen and linebackers on the front side of outside zone runs, while also at the same time sealing the backside on split zone runs. They were also giving him screens, they were giving him sweeps, they were giving him seam balls from the slot, they lined him up inline, they lined him up as a move tight end, they were giving him carries. I mean, he did everything for them, and it honestly looked exactly like Kyle Juszczyk. Obviously, there are some things that Juszczyk still does better than Okonkwo in terms of, kick-out blocks and all the traditional fullback stuff. But I think if Okonkwo can learn to do that, in addition to also doing all the tight end and slot receiver stuff that he already does, he can be an absolutely invaluable piece to any offense. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If he goes to Mike McDaniel down in Miami, who absolutely would know how to use him, I think he could be a key contributor for them as a rookie, even if the stat line isn't entirely maybe what people expect. I think in terms of versatility and blocking ability and special teams ability and all that, he would very quickly become an invaluable member of that team and probably a fan favorite. In terms of where he's actually going to get drafted, I would imagine it's somewhere on day 3 because, again, he is a little bit of a niche application. But for the teams that do value his particular skill set, I know that they're going to love him a lot, and wherever he does end up, he's going to be successful. So there you have it. There's my 5. I'm probably going to end up having to do at least one more of these, maybe 2, just because of the sheer amount of good talent in this class. Even just within the Shrine Bowl rosters themselves, there's a lot of really good talent there that I don't think gets a lot of publicity that I really want to touch on. So yeah, I'll be doing more of these, but until then, I have a deep dive coming on Nakobe Dean next week, so stick around for that. And until then, cheers.